guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. It's kind of crazy to think that we are already looking at the December 2025 tier list. That is right, this is going to be the last tier list in 2025 already. And here we are looking at the new Draconic hero. Now, she is going to be excluded from the tier list because she is not even up on global yet. But as we're seeing right now in the test server, the Cursed Realm, Nightmare Corridor, and the Treasure Scramble, we are seeing this hero used in each iteration. So that means we're probably going to see her right in that SS tier or possibly even that SSS tier, because remember, she can do up to a 200% Dragon Speak damage, which is very, very broken on the build. Cannot wait to see her over on the global and see exactly what this hero looks like when we break her out. So let's hop over to Tier Maker like we do every single month. I want to break this down and show you exactly what we're looking at for the final tier list of 2025. So right here, we'll start in the top left like we always do with our top tier heroes and thinking about utility within these heroes itself. Looking at NVIDIA, this is still another hero that is used in every single place in AFK Arena, using her within the Temple Rift, even in campaign formations, tower formations especially. But then you start looking at the Cursed Realm, best in slot, Nightmare Corridor, best in slot, Treasure Scramble, best in slot. Absolutely has a crazy amount of utility still, and we have not seen anyone at this point dethrone Envy in the build in how much damage this hero can put out. Same thing with Liberta. Liberta, even though being a support hero, still does an incredible amount of damage, has that linking ability, and is still being, and I don't know if it will change with Orthos. Orthos and Liberta are being run together, but now we're also seeing a variation of Orthos being run with Liberta and being run with Marseille, and those combinations doing pretty well. So actually Liberta will link to Orthos. Orthos will do his time stop, which will allow Marseille's damage to go through the roof. So again, we're seeing another kind of iteration or a combination between running Liberta within formations. Now, Aurelia, that is a huge support hero when it comes to buffing up a single hero like Envy. A lot of times they're running the same formation. She can run the highest attack or highest attack rating hero and amplify their damage even further, which is the reason why she is still being used in so much of the content. Same with Damia. Not only is she a buffer, we have also seen her in a couple of iterations or rotations that we've seen her as a major damage dealer. Lan, really good buffer, energy regeneration. And I really feel like at this point, Lan is probably going to come down the tier list a little bit. And same with Lucilla, that we're going to see it used really a little bit a little bit less. Because right now we're seeing Leviathan and a lot more utility with Leviathan. Again, I feel like this might move down a little bit further in the exact same when we're seeing like a Lucilla. Now, we still have the Awakened version of Athalia. If you're looking at the iteration that we're seeing right now, both the Cursed Realm and the Nightmare Corridor still running the hero. Then when we start getting into multiple formations, still seeing that Awakened version of Athalia being run in a lot of formations. Power creep is slowly catching up to her, but haven't really overtaken it at this point. So definitely a hero that we want to keep an eye on. Lan, like we were kind of saying, again, utility-wise, energy regeneration does incredibly well. But then we backtrack to Leviathan as a tank, as a shield, as really a support hero in a lot of different formations, working incredibly well, keeping some of your other heroes alive, which again, it's going to be interesting to see with the new Draconic hero if they're going to be run together because of the defensive nature that Leviathan does bring, as well as that buffing nature. Now, Misha, one that is not going anywhere anytime soon. Full defensive collection. Misha is pretty broken still with that the time stop, the illusion, and everything else she brings as a buffer works incredibly well. Same with Lavatoon. Again, buffing wise, still used in a lot of different places. And then like we were talking with Lucilla, I feel like there's going to be a point pretty soon where she's kind of moving down the tier list. And I'll adjust a couple of these kind of as we go. Now, looking at the SS tier, we still have Randy. When you look at formations, Randy is still being used in a ton of different places. As much as I thought he would fall off as we're getting a little bit further, still, again, as a support hero, as kind of a secondary damage dealer. Some formations, he's still being run as a primary damage dealer, still doing incredibly well. Rimuru still coming in as a buffer, but again, seeing a little bit of less utility out of Rimuru himself. And again, I really hope we do see a formation where maybe being used a little bit more. But when we start looking at the Awakened heroes, we do have Envy, then looking at Shimira really coming in at number 2, and then looking at the Awakened version of Estrelda really coming in as number 3, just for the fact that Estrelda has best in slot teams that he is or she is a damage dealer, Also have formations where it's the shielding, healing aspect. So kind of that support aspect we see in there, even with the armor that she provides, amplifying the damage up there. Jerome and a lot of these support heroes, even though he's a warrior, same with Begress, very strong when it comes to the support nature of the hero, buffing up to that SSS and really being able to amplify the stats that we see on some of these heroes. Same with Telmar. Telmar is a really solid buffer in a lot of different formations. Like we said, same with Begress. Same right here with Shuna. Shuna has the ability, again, to amplify the damage dealer damage that, of course, if you're looking at formations where you have one damage dealer, she will do incredibly well within formations. Velfura, another one, a lot of versatility within the Draconic heroes and formations overall with her, needs some magical pierce and getting and stacking that magical pierce as high as you can get it. Ivan still has an incredible amount of utility within the shielding and the energy regeneration piece. I feel like the Awakened version of Leica is probably going to be one that's dropping a little bit down the tier list. Kind of as we see it right now, we're not really seeing her. And I haven't actually used Leica in a considerable amount of formations. Even thinking of the Treasure Scramble, not seeing a lot of utility overall. Palmer as a buffer, still doing incredibly well. Crit damage amplification. Nox within the cheese formation. And even outside of the formation, as a buffer, we've still seen him doing incredibly well. Then, of course, we have the Awakened version of Shamira as the ability, and having the ability to keep everyone alive with that energy disintegration really does make a lot of difference in a couple different game modes. Zora, still formations where we see the best in slot damage dealer. Sun Jin Woo, another one within formations, still doing incredibly well as that buffer and really the debuffer or that damage amplification hero that we see. Now, Skylin, interesting enough, Treasure Scramble still absolutely dominates one team in the Treasure Scramble. It's kind of divided among the players that have them and the players that do not. But outside of the Cursed Realm, or really the Nightmare Corridor and the Cursed Realm, not seeing a lot of utility within Skylin himself. Now, Scion is kind of the opposite. Now, Scion, we are seeing in a lot of different formations. Again, seeing him best in slot within Nightmare Corridor, seeing it within the Treasure Scramble, within some formations, and also seeing him used within the Cursed Realm or Skylin we're not really seeing. I feel like when it comes to regular Draconic heroes, Scion is absolutely best in slot. Now, we do have Marseille. Marseille, again, best in slot damage dealer in a couple different formations. Thing with her, and I don't know why at this point we're not seeing her in the Garrison. We're long past that 6-month window for the Garrison. I'm still waiting for the patch notes. Hopefully next patch notes, she will be joining the Garrison. I don't know exactly what is going on with that. Then we have the Awakened version of Falks. This is another hero, really climbed high, really climbed fast. Seeing, and again, we haven't even run through all the iterations of the game modes to see the effectiveness of this hero, but overall as a mage damage dealer and crowd control, doing incredibly well. Aethys as a pure tank, still super broken. And you can also notice that Celine has moved up out of that S tier into that SSS tier. Again, when you start looking at a hero that has the ability to do and does some major AoE nuking damage, but also has the ability as a support hero to buff up the team, we have started seeing her run really in more and more formations. Same with Lysander, we are still seeing him in a lot of different formations. Rem, again, damage-wise, I feel like Rem is falling down a little bit more in the formations. We could even probably drop her down a little bit more. Early game, Rem is super broken when it comes to a hero itself, but as you get further, I'm not seeing her really in a lot of iterations if you don't have a lot of other heroes built. Naruko, still seeing some use. Again, if you have all of the heroes built, you're not going to see as much use out of some of these heroes. Then we look at Laios as a buffer, still works well. The Awakened version of Thorin, still within that Treasure Scramble, does super well. Garok, still holding strong in the SS tier. The shielding, also the ability to amplify damage, being run in a lot of different game modes. Skarath has really solidified himself as a damage dealer in a few formations, or as a buffer in a couple formations. Then we have the Awakened version of Iran. This is kind of, and it's been kind of the triangle between Skylin, the Awakened version of Iran, and Scion, depending exactly who you have built. Again, I feel like he was used in quite a few formations. He's kind of a backup to a couple of the heroes. Then we look at Halia. This is another hero that, unfortunately, still seeing her used in a few different formations. Not really best in slot damage dealer, but does have the ability to ramp up some of the other damage in there. Sierra Mira, this is one that we're seeing really just strictly within Nightmare Corridor. Talon has started showing his ability to run a team all by himself. So we are having him as the best in slot damage dealer. Again, Highborn Draconic hero, super, super expensive to build. Gavis as still kind of that protection. Shahan, we've actually seen in this iteration as a primary damage dealer, does require a pretty big build out, but I was hoping we would find a place for her, and it's almost to the point where I feel like we are, and we have seen a place for her. And then, of course, like we said, with the Awakened version of Leica. Now, as we go through this S tier, these are the heroes that are kind of the sub formation or the secondary heroes that we see. Even looking here, the Chad, we have a Theo that I actually put in for Halia in a lot of formations. Instant crowd control right here with Amelia. Another hero, super effective when you're looking at crowd control, when you're looking at like the Awakened version of Lucius, or even Belinda. Having a lot of crowd control out there makes a big difference. Damage amplification out of here with Adrian Elise, but overall, there are now some better heroes that really do perform better. Sophia, we're seeing in a couple different places. Hildwyn as a mitigation. It seems like Hildwyn has dropped out of a majority of formations. Gavis, while he's still kind of holding still. Now, of course, we do have Trishia in here. Energy regeneration still does very well if you don't have a lot of these heroes built. Nyla, the exact same. Very, very few, very niche formation we're kind of seeing her. Draconic version of Gwen, if you don't have a lot of other ones built. Unfortunately, she's not being used. Cameras for that enthusiasm buffing that we see. Actually, we used Kelthin just the iteration, and I believe this iteration with the deformation for the crowd control piece. Alvida as the crowd control, really hard to kill. Now, Melion is an interesting one as a buffer, as kind of that crowd control to bring all the heroes together. I feel like Melion might move into that SS tier. We might actually see him boosted up a little bit because of the new hero that is coming out within the Draconic faction. Only time will tell what we see. Rosaline as the ultimate, as the double ult that we can do. Ulna, of course, for the cheat death, and the rest of these we'll just kind of go through. Again, Rowan kind of used in a couple different places if you're missing a majority of the support heroes. Same with Goran. Goran still does have a little bit of utility, very similar to what we see with the Talmar. Still does work incredibly well. Looking at this A tier, we got Shell tier in here and a couple other ones. Kregor, of course, Treasure Scramble still does work incredibly well. And a lot of even the dimensional heroes like Joan of Arc, again, not seeing a lot of use. Orthos outside of that cheese formation, again, a place we're not really seeing a lot of use. Umbriel, we thought for a moment he would be used in a few different places. Unfortunately, he is a pass at this point. Awakened version of Entendre and a couple other ones are the exact same. Not seeing really much utility at all. Mira, we are seeing in the Treasure Scramble. This is another hero we are seeing within the Treasure Scramble. And then we have Lythos. And Lythos, he is right down here. They dropped him in the initial C tier. There was one formation that we're using him for, but unfortunately, he was very, very quickly to be replaced in the formation. I know for Lythos, it is still very early, but again, initially, this is where they're putting him. Not seeing him played right now in any game modes that I am aware of. Again, we could see him in the future, possibly. Chances are he's going to be another hero that has just kind of dropped into a subpar tier, and then he's not going to be used at all within AFK Arena. So guys, that is going to do it for the tier list. Again, a couple of little changes in here, little tweaks as we go ahead and use this. And I'm waiting to see another hero. Like I said, if this Draconic hero really does put out all of the damage, and looking at the build and where this hero could be possibly Sworn by Flame, the Burning Dreams, if this hero is broken as we're seeing right now, it's going to be right into that SS tier, that possibly SSS tier, just based on utility, just based on damage within AFK Arena. And overall, we're going to have to wait and see exactly where she's being used or where she's being built. So it's going to be very interesting to see if this hero does replace some of those meta heroes and exactly who it is changed and what formation she is changed in. So, all right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.